Every party in Cape Town started over shots of tequila, a round of tequilas on the table. And we ended up throwing one of the largest tequila festivals in the world in 2019 in South Africa, which is called International Tequila Festival. Over
8,000, 9,000 people gathering to just have tequila shots.
It was a full Mexican fiesta. We developed this amazing skill set of bringing people together. The current millennial and Gen Z generation doesn't want a 4 BHK house perhaps or a Ferrari car because they know it's a little out of bound. But they would rather spend their 20s in creating great memories. We quickly grew to one of the largest cloud kitchen companies in South Africa. Losing my father early, I see a lot of my friends being far more successful because they had the umbrella to fall around the father's ecosystem. Every morning or every week you'll question yourself whether it was a good decision to be back. Third-party delivery apps have killed an average cloud kitchen or restaurant industry. When we unfortunately talk about nepotism in movie industry,
Bollywood.
Also the best actors in the last 30 years have also come out of that nepotism only, so-called. Your best of friends, your best of connections also found every way to avoid you in that period because half of the people knew that he's not running those large companies in South Africa.
Welcome to the third episode of the Hashtag Show. On our show, we invite guests who are entrepreneurs, investors, innovators, influencers, content creators. The single point perspective of this show is to hear their inspirational story, learn from them, their insights about the business. And this is just not a podcast. The perspective here is to put all these learnings, the takeaways, their experiences together into a masterclass where our team will collectively convert these episodes into a masterclass so that you as an audience would love to learn something which is very special, something which is very out of the box, because these are all stories which are real stories, and these are stories which you will be hearing from the mouth and from the heart of our guest. So please join me in welcoming Mohit Sureka. Mohit.
Thank you
so much. So it's always a wonderful experience to have a friend, and then when you are a business partner.
Correct.
We are partners together for the Asia PropTech Forum, which is a joint initiative which we both have launched. So wonderful to have you, and thank you once again for accepting our invitation and to be a part of our podcast. So today's guest is Mohit Sureka. Mohit is a serial entrepreneur, presently who has founded Mojo Capital and Global Startup Club. He's a community builder and a startup investment specialist. His mission in life is to help entrepreneurs journeys of all founders with incredible impact on the Indian and global ecosystem. Today, we will deep dive into his journey. We'll deep dive into this, the way he has built his entrepreneurial career, and how is the impact which he is going to be putting and bringing into the Indian startup ecosystem and the global startup ecosystem. So Mohit, let's start with your journey. Way back, whatever I know about you, right from, we want to go back as a flashback 10, 15 years, 20 years, wherever and however you want to start, from your South Africa, wherever you want to start. Let's start and know you from your entrepreneurial journey or your professional journey, the way you would like to start.
Thank you, Sangeet ji. Pleasure to be here. So basically, if we talk about the entrepreneurial side of the journey, about 2012, 2013 to 2022, I was about 9.5 years away from India. Being a CSCS originally by qualification, started my career in consulting companies like KPMG, Panelka, Foster. Moved on to a financial head role in South Africa with a local group of entities. And 2015 end onwards, I started my first restaurant. So I was very fascinated by the food business and food industry for a decade before that. And I was sure that is the industry I wanted to explore.
So after doing your
CACS.
After CACS and a
CFO.
And as a CFO.
Finance head,
correct,
yeah.
Then you went into restaurant business.
I went into restaurant business. I always wanted to open a cafe or a bar. So that's what I ended up doing. And that manifested into a full-blown hospitality chain. From restaurants, we diversified into backpackers, guest houses.
All in South Africa.
All in South Africa. Majority, everything based out of Cape Town. Cape Town is an absolutely beautiful city.
And remind me, we'll talk about Cape Town during this conversation.
Correct. And during that period, because my restaurant was a very big place, 4,000 square feet from Indian standards point of view, I had to convert it into like an events venue.
Oh, okay.
To constantly fill in the crowds, especially on the weekdays and other days of the week. That led me into the event side of the industry.
So you had a 4,000 square feet restaurant.
Yes.
Was it catering to the Indian community, or it was by
It
and
was
large?
it was barely any Indian community.
So it was for
It
anybody.
it was for anybody.
So
It
any
was
resident of Cape
international,
Town.
Western food
It was
predominantly.
Western food.
Yeah, and we started doing stand-up comedy shows. We started doing live music.
That's only to
gigs
attract for the traction of the
for
guests.
the traction of the guests, because the location wasn't the greatest location in a very good area. So I realized I had to pull the crowd from
It
somewhere.
was
else.
more of a pull.
It was a pull strategy.
Pull strategy.
Pull strategy towards marketing, and it was not so successful in the first year, but the second year onwards we started building traction.
So that means you kept yourself invested. You kept putting in the money for 1 year.
Yes.
So that you had patience.
More than 1.5 years.
So you were
but
patient
we
at that
had
point
the
of time?
patience to work on the brand.
So were you confident that I'm going to make this?
I
At the-
was.
You were
I
young,
was,
I'm sure. How
correct.
old were you that time?
I was probably, if I counting 26, 27.
So for a 26 year Indian origin,
Correct.
going to South Africa in Cape Town,
Yes.
opening up a restaurant and pumping in the money, and I don't think you had generational wealth behind you, right?
No.
So
Yeah.
whatever I know about you. So for a
Correct.
self-made entrepreneur, I think it's quite scary, right? That means you had so much of confidence. I'm going to build this.
I had a very wild confidence about myself. Okay, because I've been working ever since the age of 16.
Okay.
Okay, and in fact, my first entrepreneurial journey, let me talk about that, started when I was a 15-year-old, and I started teaching something called as Vedic maths.
So this is the unofficial so-called entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah,
This
so
is-
I was doing workshops and making 20,000 rupees a month
Wow.
during
Interesting.
summer vacations as a 15, 16-year-old, and that was one learning curve. So I've been working for a couple of decades in that sense.
Got it.
And the Cape Town journey was just a very unique journey in that sense.
Very nice. So very interesting. So that means now, and we're going to take this as a flow because you have been wearing and donning multiple hats. So we'll take one hat at one time.
Yeah.
So this was the restaurant thing. How did that transit into events now? So we understand that
Correct.
you wanted that as a pull factor. That you
Correct,
wanted to
correct.
fill your
We-
restaurant, 4,000 square feet. What I understand at that point of time, there were not that many 4,000 square feet sizes of restaurants.
Yeah.
They were more of 2,000, 2,500 square feet,
So-
or whatever the size.
So I believe firstly in the restaurant industry, party industry, events industry, vibe is everything. So you have to create a vibe for a big place. If you do not have 70, 80 people, 100 people a day,
So it was
it
again
doesn't create kind of, oh wow, that's a place
so
I
it was
want
a
to
wow
be sitting
factor
at,
which you wanted anyway.
which I
So
wanted.
there were two
anyway.
reasons. One was the wow factor, and one was the pull factor.
Correct. And restaurant industry again, the events, the first 70 events probably that I did, I couldn't gather crowds. I did not know how to pull crowds. But by the 71st event, we understood how to do events per se. What is it that brings people on a FOMO factor towards a particular evening to a particular place. That led us to build one of the largest festival and events company in South Africa by 2018-19.
So chartered accountant, company secretary, finance, restaurateur, events.
Correct.
And this is all how this transition happened.
It was very natural. It was also
It's natural, yeah.
it was natural, and also the fact that my natural instincts towards marketing, branding, and
So you had
doing
that.
events was very strong, which I had realized back in the college days itself.
Got it.
That probably this is a field for me, but you were doing your CA. It's not like I did not like finance field. So you continued the education you were taking in the
Fair
finance
enough.
and
So-
business side of it, and then in reality, all your natural instincts also helped you.
Yeah. So your professional career, your education, like you said, your natural instinct, and I think we're living in an era today where whomever I meet, whether they are professional, whether they're entrepreneurs, they all are very very multidimensional.
Correct.
We, because of the internet, because of the access to information, because of technology, the generation, the today's generation, including my generation, who are embracing technology, that's where the difference is, right? Are able to do much more than what you would have been doing earlier. I think that's
Correct.
That's one perspective for sure, right? Whatever we are doing today, I can see a lot today. Earlier क्या होता था? Simple था ना. आप डॉक्टर बनोगे, आप इंजीनियर बनोगे. Arts, commerce, science. There were only three streams. That's what we grew up. My father being a doctor, I was supposed to be a doctor. I was not able to be a doctor because I'm not inclined towards medicine.
Fair.
फिर भी I took science. I did take commerce. I still took science. Then again the journey changed. I went to the US. I did my bachelor's in business management. Then whatever happened after that. So I think we have come to a different era right now where you don't have to be following the mainstream. So that's how your journey has been interesting. From CA, you went into your restaurant business, and then from there you went into events. So let's continue. After 1 year, after what 70th so-called
Yes,
week
we
or
learned
event.
the crux of what makes an event work, how to market it, how to do ticketed events more than anything else. And by 2019, we were throwing some of the largest award ceremonies in South Africa.
But they were all at the same venue, or they were outside the venue?
So I'm just coming to that also. So outside the venue, I always believed that just like how vodka and gin were the trending spirits in alcohol industry in 2000s and 2010s, the 2020s will be about tequila. Because every party in Cape Town started over shots of tequila, a round of tequilas on the table, and we ended up throwing one of the largest tequila festivals in the world in 2019 in South Africa, which was called International Tequila Festival. Had about 8,500-9,000 people gathering. Over
8,000, 9,000 people gathering to just have tequila shots.
Yeah, it was a full Mexican fiesta. Themed rock bands, 27 rock bands played over.
27 rock bands.
Played over 2 to 3 days, and it was a crazy party. Let me put it that way, and that gave us confidence to do events beyond the venue. We have done, besides that, South Africa Cocktail Festival was again my IP, which was the last IP we did before COVID happened. And that was a street festival with over 2,500 people. So we had developed a lot of skill set in the last 1 year to do events beyond our venue and very large events also.
So what was it? So you did festivals, right?
Correct.
Then what else? I think something around music also you did something, right?
Yeah,
DJ, you did some DJ competition also.
So one thing that we did early days in our events that made us popular, we did something called as a War of DJs, Battle of the Bands.
This is again
all Cape Town.
All Cape Town. We have not come to India.
We have not come to
India.
India.
We're still in Cape Town.
2012 to 2021.
I don't know this journey of yours so much as I know your Indian journey.
2012 to 2021 end is only Cape Town.
So all
there
our friends could be our friends, Mohit's friends, who did not know his journey of South Africa. So that's the whole idea of you to know that the other side of Mohit, which I don't know. Honestly, I did not know this in depth. I knew a little bit of the that you were in Cape Town.
Yeah.
So this gives you a better insight of Mohit's those few years in Cape Town. So very interesting journey.
Yeah. So somewhere along that time, we developed this amazing skill set of bringing people together.
That
for
became
good
your
big
core
party.
strength
That
now.
became the core strength.
To bring people
Hard skill
together.
set that we say, right? That there will be 20 other people or companies who can do everything that we do, but that one hard skill set that keeps us over and above everyone else was bringing people together, giving them an experiential day or experiential evening. Okay,
So you believe
creating
that
value on
creating
that.
value, creating memory is a business in itself?
Absolutely, I think that's the biggest business for the millennial and the Gen Z generation.
They love
Because
to
they
have
are they are less material oriented. You know, the current millennial and Gen Z generation doesn't want a 4 BHK house perhaps or a Ferrari car because they know it's a little out of bound. But they would rather spend their 20s in creating great memories.
This can be our investment also, especially for a millennial who said whether they're getting into a professional career or entrepreneurial career. I hear here a lot of these yatras have been created now where there are 14 days, they go in a train and there are
Yeah.
about 400, 500, you know. So is this,
So you're actually talking about Jagriti Yatra.
Jagriti Yatra,
And
yeah.
I was among the first 10-15 people who went on that yatra.
See, there you go. So
Coincidentally.
this is
So-
what we didn't have in the 70s
Correct.
and the 80s and the 90s until 2000 when we were growing up. So this is something interesting, the Jagriti Yatra. I just read about
Yes.
it. I just saw a reel a few days back. I think
Correct,
it's happening
correct.
very soon.
So very closely connected to the Jagriti Yatra team from my side. As I said, for the first yatra that happened in 2009, 8-9 period, I was amongst the first few people who went there.
Very
So almost the current team is people who are all juniors or my age who went along with us, who are running the yatra. Started by Shashank Mani sir, and in fact his idea also came from a similar yatra he attended as a student in 1997 called Azad Bharti Rail Yatra.
That
So I
was in
think
India.
this was also India.
This was India.
So I think things like this has been happening, but in smaller pockets in the 80s and 90s. The late 2000s accelerated it in India.
So are we
The
saying that these are all
experiences.
going to get further? There's going to be a push because there's an absorption happening. People are the generations are looking for experiences. So are we now
Correct.
moving towards these kind of experiential tools? And we'll come to the Global Startup Summit because that's again I believe another. It's all about experience there, right?
Correct.
So are we now moving towards that more? So the
So,
experiential
bit
marketing,
of-
if I want to
bit
call
of-
it,
bit of
that's going to become a
both
big
of
business
everything.
now.
In our particular case, as soon as you mentioned Global Startup Summit, it's also our core belief that humans are meant to live life with all 5 senses.
5 senses.
Yes, you know, you hear something, you have to feel good.
Correct.
You smell something nice, you
Correct.
see it with eyes, you shake hands.
Correct.
Handshake is important, the half hug is important today.
Correct.
Correct. In the 90s, early 2000s, everybody was not hugging each other beyond maybe the South Mumbai area
And the film industry.
and the film industry.
Salman Bhai.
And so these kind of small things are trust building exercises, friendship building exercises, which I believe is very important from a human connection point of view. That is why all the pundits who said COVID will change everything forever turned in its head, where COVID actually did not change anything forever, and everything has returned into majority offline again. Okay, there's a 20% hybrid thing which is still going on.
And I think we will leave that there. That will continue.
Correct.
We are, because that's ingrained now. So
Yes.
we are used to webinars. We're used to the Google Meets and the Zoom Meets. Why
The
travel that 1 hour?
Zoom meets actually are more effective if you already know people. Okay, so me and you, when we do a Zoom meet now, because we have already been working with each other, we just avoid the 5th, 6th, 7th meeting now. Okay, that's where Zoom meets are more effective in that sense.
Correct. So you're saying that when we talk about an online event, a virtual event, right? You can't build a company, you can't build an enterprise only on being virtual. That's I would.
So
can I
when-
use that kind of a
correct.
thing? So you
So
can't do events, it's only online events.
2020 March 10th is when we pulled out of the events industry. Peak COVID, all our sponsors called us very politely. Couple of them came to meet me at my restaurant to say we have to pull out the sponsorship. And we had an event calendar packed for 7-8 months. If you know me, you know how my calendar is always packed for
Very
a
well.
year
We
in
know that
advance.
plan, yeah.
And we were amongst the only events company in South Africa then who decided to not do even a single online event. Because
That's when, during the COVID,
yes,
most of the chambers, platforms, initiatives, they all went off. They all went online.
correct. Because we
You
were
didn't
like,
want to go online.
we couldn't recreate our experiences, okay, or our dopamine hit inside your
Yeah,
head.
correct. So you were somewhat different. Why do that? Yeah.
Why do that? I mean, if I'm not gonna deliver even 1/5 the experience I'm known for, then it's not my signature event. It's not my gathering that I do.
So
It's
then what
not my
happened?
community
So then
building.
March of 2022, what happened? Or
March
20,
of
or
2020,
sorry,
we
the pandemic hit
repivoted.
us now.
We repivoted our business into a food tech and cloud kitchens business. We quickly, in South Africa again we quickly grew to one of the largest cloud kitchen companies in South Africa. Unfortunately, the COVID era back in that country had a lot of restrictions even for delivery food.
Okay.
So they would force you to close the restaurant by 7 p.m. Omicron, if you remember, a variant which had come out from South Africa. So the local economy never really recovered until late 2023.
So businesses were hit
Businesses were hit very badly
very badly.
because it was a country again very largely based out of tourism.
No tourism happening.
No tourism happening, no international tourism.
No international tourism.
Tourism happening. Like what happened in Europe, they could feed each other on their local tourism from one country to another. What happened in India, we could feed the Indian international tourists who would have probably gone to Bali or gone to Singapore, kept traveling within India and spent the extra money.
Got it.
South African tourism was very largely based for Europe and Americas because the Africa also cannot afford the luxury side of the South African tourism. So overall the economy was much highly affected in a region like Cape Town and Western Cape, which is very largely Europe centric and US centric based tourism. And so the local economy not recovering affects businesses no matter what you do.
Understood.
Okay, your per head spends go down, and that's where end of 21 we decided we wanted to exit out of the South African market. I had made up my mind that the opportunity and the growth remains in Bharat. In that
That
sense.
suddenly now you're waking up. Let's go back to India now.
So 2018 onwards, I was already bored of South Africa. Okay, but
So that's going to be, can we say that's another aspect of your personality that you get bored after a few years?
not really that way.
Can I
But
make a prediction now? That
Not
2024, we're going to expect something in 27, 28, something more.
not really. But
Out of boredom, you do something else.
I think the reason for which I went abroad in my 20s did not apply to me at the age of 33.
That changes.
It changed. Like you
We
changed
spoke
as a
about
person,
that earlier also.
and your life priorities changed.
Life priorities. So we
Correct.
every say 10 years or whatever cycle you want to call it, your responsibilities change.
Correct.
Your outlook towards life changes.
You start looking at the family a little more. You start looking at, okay, if I'm such a family person,
And you are a family person.
I am a family person.
You
Why
love
am
your-
I not with the family and living abroad?
You love your mother, you love your
Yes,
sister. Every time
yes.
we keep talking about your sister.
Correct.
Yesterday we had lunch at your place for Ganpati. You were served
Correct.
homemade food. After a long time, I had some Marwadi khana with you, original, authentic dal bati and the dahi vadas and all. So you believe in the family values.
Correct.
Do you think is
And-
that something from an Indian entrepreneur perspective? Are we a little different from an American or in South Africa or a European culture because you've lived there for so many years?
Correct.
You've done business with them for so many years.
Correct.
Do you think is that one of the key differentiator between an Indian entrepreneur, an Indian founder, and an American founder or any other founder, any other global founder?
I do believe in that very largely. Culturally, we are different, and it also gives us strength. I do suppose, like in the last 15-20 years, it's become fashionable to not call it a strength, call it a burden. and make it all about nuclear families only being the greatest. Okay, so I think we also have a little bit of growing up to do. That how to talk to your parents still and make it work. It also gives us a lot of strength because losing my father early, about 22 years back, at different points of business cycles, I see a lot of my friends being far more successful because they had the umbrella to fall around the father's ecosystem.
Yes, I
Correct.
believe that.
And that helps you not go through absolute downfalls.
This is support.
There's a support
Could
system
be
in
a family
place.
support, could be your
I
wife. It
saw
could be your,
that in the 2021 end and 22 era in India, that a lot of business did not go under. Is
because they had a
because
support.
because there was a family support, sibling support, extended family support. These supports do not exist abroad.
And I want to add here,
Yeah.
because it happened with me, right? It happened perhaps with all of us. There was a point where you had to borrow money from your friends.
Correct.
So I think that also is, in India we have that culture, dosti, har ek
Yeah.
dost zaruri hota hai types, right? So you can always call a friend, and sometimes you might be reluctant to call your own uncle or an aunt, ki I want some money, but with a friend, you still feel comfortable, ki yaar ek,
So there's a more support culture in India, which is needed to some extent for anything, for entrepreneurs, for even a good professional who wants to be CEO, men, women, both, on both sides. And I think that to a certain extent is what makes and breaks your long term
very interesting.
ambitions.
So now back to India.
Back to India.
2021.
2021, yes.
And then what happened? Then now suddenly events हो गया, आपने वहाँ पे लोगों को दारू
So
पिला दी,
to-
टेकुला पिला दिया, parties कर दी,
Correct.
rock band बुला लिया. अब you are now in India.
So yes,
what happened?
by
the first morning when you get up in the morning, you're back home in India. What thought?
it was so there was like culturally I had changed. Okay.
You were on a young age, right?
Yeah, I
So
was
that's
now mid 30s already, and culturally you change. You've spent a decade away. You worked in a different environment, lived with different people, absorbed their culture, absorbed their habits on a daily basis. It took a good 1 year to settle back into India. Okay, to normalize yourself that this is how India will work, this is how Indian people work in business circumstances, this is how much bullshit you'll get in the market no matter what.
Correct.
And 2022 was an absolute shocking year where every morning or every week you'll question yourself whether it was a good decision to be back. But
That
one
happens
thing,
with everybody at every point of time in their life, whenever they are doing something different.
correct. And
Am I on the right track or not?
yeah, absolutely. And what happened during that period was I knew by then, I was matured enough by then that Rome was not built in a day.
Correct.
So if I have to now want to live in India, it's easier for me to just run away abroad again and start from where I left and build from there. It will be easier. But in India, I'll have to invest at least 2 years of my time.
This is in 2021.
22, I would
22.
rather say.
So the pandemic is settled down.
It did not settle down actually right away, because I was still having the after effects at a personal or mental level. Where
you had two things happening, right? You had a pandemic.
22 January also, we had very hard lockdowns still, where weddings were only 50 people, etc.
Yeah, so you had a double thing, right? You had a change of culture, change of country, and then the pandemic. So there were two things happening.
And I was amongst the few people who got COVID 2022 May.
You yourself were COVID.
So, in my head, COVID did not end because that at the later period I got the whole 2 years when I was going out every day.
And you got the third wave, if I'm not mistaken.
Third or fourth wave kind of a thing. And 2022 we set up Mojo Capital. Now comes to the India journey.
Mojo Capital.
It was going back to my finance and CACS roots. Mojo Capital started as a investment banking and startup advisory firm. And
Why do you think of startups? You could have gone for restaurants,
because
hospitality.
I think one thing I learned out of the food industry, restaurant industry, by 2018-19, it's a very, very tough industry to be in. Every Tom, Dick and Harry around the
There are a
world.
lot of real on social media which tells you not to be in the. It's
In
one
the
of the
food
business
industry.
where a lot of influencers or business coaches are not advising people to get into the food business. There are
Because
number of reasons why not to be into the
tens
restaurant
of
business.
thousands and lakhs of people are able to open restaurants now compared to ever before.
More capital
That's one
required.
thing. It's capital intensive
It is very
business.
capital intensive.
It's labor intensive business and not the best quality labor intensive business.
And you've got to be
And,
there on the toes
all the
throughout.
time.
You have to be
you
there.
have to be involved. You're working late nights on Fridays and entire Saturdays and entire Sundays because that's your main days of work.
Correct.
You're dealing with a perishable item. If I do not serve food to you within 15 minutes, your food is not warm enough, it's not tasty enough. If it's not delivered within 20 minutes, people give you an online review.
So even the consumers are very, very demanding now, right?
It's very demanding.
Whether the online consumer or in the restaurant.
Low margins.
Low margins.
Third-party delivery apps have killed an average cloud kitchen or restaurant industry because it's
Zomatos
not
and Swiggies are
sustainable.
making more money right now.
I don't know even if they are making money.
No, Dipender
Because
Goyal has
if
what?
I-
He's bought huge amount
That's
of.
an individual founder.
But
The
he's-
company per se,
No, but the company
and the
it's
core
a listed
shareholders.
company, if I'm not mistaken.
it is.
What I
It was
understand,
still
little
in
bit-
losses earlier.
So yeah,
Right
they've-
now, they've cracked a little bit of a code
So
with
he's
the platform fees.
So he's made his the platform fee, right?
Correct.
So that would be a perspective of the other cloud kitchens also. Anyway, so let's
Yeah.
come back. So businesses are changing. What I am now understanding is a pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, the business models have changed, consumption patterns have changed, right?
Correct.
The needs have changed. So I guess it's important for an entrepreneur to be focused on the changing needs and the demand. Technology is playing a role. So that's what kind of excited you. And you believed in the India growth story. You came back.
Correct.
You said Bharat.
Absolutely.
So, Bharat Mera Ghar, Bharat Mera Desh. So back now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you realize that
Still, I get all my goosebumps with every national anthem and Vande
you get
Mataram.
very good.
Yes.
So Bharat is here, right?
Correct.
So now that we are here, 2024, India growth story, startup is what you said. I want to be a
So
part.
when I was away, the one great thing that you kept hearing about India, how the startup ecosystem is one of the best in the world.
So you were
It's
already
growing.
hearing about the Indian startup
Correct.
ecosystem in Africa
Yeah.
when this transition
Correct.
happened.
Because for that decade, I had only visited India once.
Oh,
Okay.
only
so-
once, even 10 years.
Yeah. And because it was much easier to call my family over
Okay,
for
got it.
a month or 3 month
That
vacation.
was better, yeah.
Than me leaving my work and visiting only for a week. And so the India getting involved in the startup ecosystem was indirectly that. I was coming being a founder myself, coming running businesses myself internationally.
And you had a finance
Coming
background,
from
right?
finance,
That's
consulting
the key,
background.
Today for any startup.
Being a Marwadi coming from a business family,
Marwadi again, yeah.
so it couldn't get better to
Why are there
think
so
of
many
that.
Marwadi founders who are successful?
Because
in the startup
I do
ecosystem?
believe it has
all the
to,
Oyos and all, Agarwals, Bansals. You've got too many Marwadis.
because you're growing up in a business environment on a daily basis. I mean, I remember things I learned from just observing my father and my mama talking to their business colleagues, or talking to their customers, or talking to their vendors, and noticing what they talk, how they think in a business. And you are getting learning curves at an early age that are not easy to get. Like when we unfortunately talk about nepotism in movie industry,
Bollywood.
also the best actors in the last 30 years have also come out of that nepotism only, so called, because the Hrithik Roshan or the Ranbir Kapoor also have been seeing right from the age of 4 and 5 how a movie is made, how a movie is made, what goes into the back end production, how to act, what is not okay in acting. So by the time they're 20 or 22, they're just groomed more on a daily basis. So I think that helps a bit. I wouldn't say that is the only deciding factor, but it does help you in your overall journey.
Great. So we have Mojo Capital,
Yes.
investment banking started,
Uh,
and then how did the global startup club
and
happen
it
now?
did amazingly bad in 2022. Okay, 2022 was a
First year.
such a learning curve of a year.
So financially, you didn't make money.
Financially, we didn't make money. Morally, just to boost up your morale, your best of friends, your best of connections also found every way to avoid you in that period, because half of the people knew कि he's not running those large companies in South Africa. He's
अभी
come
तो
back.
कुछ नहीं है, अभी तो क्या- अभी तो कुछ
He's
नहीं
not
है।
the same
अभी तो
cool.
कुछ है ही नहीं ना
He's
वो।
not the same
हाँ,
cool
वो
friend
cool
from
है ही नहीं है।
college.
अब क्या दोस्ती करना?
अब क्या दोस्ती करना? And I realized all my connections are sitting abroad. India में my connections are school friends.
Right.
Early junior college
I
wala
had
friends.
that same problem when I came back.
I wasn't really stupid is why I lost money. Okay, during the pandemic. I was a very smart entrepreneur. It happened that the worst affected industries were the industries I was part of.
Both
So,
events.
I
Events
was-
and restaurants.
Events, restaurants, backpackers, everything.
All. Travel,
So
whatever.
from my perspective, I absolutely had a very strong skill set, and I knew I have a strong skill set. I absolutely knew my ABCDs, how to build a company, how to go from 0 to 1 and 1 to 10. Whether I can go from 10 to 100 was a complete different league
Yeah,
altogether.
Fair enough. So
0 to 1, 1 to 10 I had cracked by then. So I never doubted the skill set to feel bad. I was just like,
but does that kind of inspire you also? You know, यार होता है. Come on, we are all human, right?
yes,
तो आपको rejection होता है. आप चाहे कोई भी business करते हो.
I think I was
There is
disappointed amongst the people that
You have an
I do not-
expectation also, no, Mohit?
I do not. I think I had matured enough to lower my expectations generally.
Yeah, but this is human, right?
Yeah,
You have an expectation कि
I was surprised, I would say, that people are less willing to help each other out or
Correct.
help a friend out.
correct
And we were not asking for money, we were looking for connections.
connections.
I was looking to connect with friends to tell me how the Indian market works.
Correct.
What should I do here? I wanted to bounce back ideas.
Mohit, let's talk about the Global Startups Club. So
Yes.
you realize that there is a gap in the Indian startup ecosystem.
So 2021 onwards, I had this thing in mind to start an event called Mojo Capital Startup Event, something of that nature I had in mind. So the entire 2022, it had not really opened up for events. But by August or September, the first or second event started rolling out.
Correct.
Your conferences or your conclaves. And after having done over 1,000 events internationally, in UAE and South Africa predominantly, there was a very big event management understanding that I had out of this. But we did not want to come across as an events company. I attended a few of the startup ecosystem events in 22 in India, and I realized how badly they were getting produced. Events started off 2 hours late. When you arrive on time, there is no table setup, registration setup. So that whole myth about going to a international quality event falls flat when your quality and production is not good. And again, no idea between how the event was interconnected, getting people to network properly. So that's where the discontent by the end of 2022 resulted in the making of Global Startups Club.
How did you think of the name? Global Startups Club.
So as I said, originally it was supposed to be called maybe Mojo Startup Battles.
Yeah.
I realized, but nobody connects with that name.
Nobody
Just
connects
because
with it.
I
Just
love
because
the
your
word
company's
Mojo.
name. Yeah, your company's name is
And
Mojo.
I have a story to say. Doesn't mean everybody is interested in hearing my story.
Right.
The way I do brand building, which I have done for a decade before that, was my largest event was called International Tequila Festival. So it wasn't just a festival, it was a tequila festival. It was an international
So the
tequila
story
festival.
has to be what everybody can relate to.
Absolutely.
It's not, I'm not telling my story,
Correct.
right?
And at an overall level, we wanted to build a startup ecosystem or community which started in India, had its roots and cultures and the value creation starting from India and going global. At no point of time did we ever think we would not be in multiple cities around the world and multiple countries. These things have resulted that the vision from day one was to make it global.
Got it.
And the confidence with me having lived in 4-5 cities internationally allows me to be very relaxed, calm and confident. If nothing else, 4-5 countries, so I can make it.
No, and I think, yeah, so that's the whole idea. That's why we
Yeah.
partnered together. We're not calling it the India PropTech Forum. We also
It's
thought of
Asia
this
PropTech.
Asia PropTech. Though we are obviously starting with India. We've got a 6-city
Correct.
tour happening in India. But it's a vision where we going to
We have already announced a date for Dubai.
You already
right?
announced that
Yes.
Dubai. Yeah, so guys, all those who are watching us here, we will be in Dubai April, right?
April, 5th April in
तो
Dubai.
थोड़ा सा मार्केटिंग कर लेते हैं, हमारा ही शो है
हमारा
तो
ही
बता तो कब जा रहे हैं हम दुबई कब जा रहे हैं
So Global Startups Club Dubai starting is 19th October, but Asia PropTech Forum is starting on 5th April in Dubai.
प्लीज नोट कर ले 5th
5th April,
April हाँ ठीक है
Yeah.
वेरी गुड तो दैट विल बी
2025.
2025 yes and so we'll come back to that again.
Yeah.
So ग्लोबल स्टार्टअप समिट ग्लोबल स्टार्टअप क्लब शुरू हो गया समिट शुरू हो गए फिर आपके इवेंट शुरू हो गए जो आपने यू डिसाइडेड
Correct.
you want to continue doing events. It could be in the small colleges, it could be in incubation centers, it could be
Yeah.
so I've attended your which is very very interesting your breakfast
Founders Breakfast Club.
breakfast
Club.
club
Yeah.
meeting. How did this all happen now? So एक समिट आपने प्लान किया जो एक बड़ा
Correct.
फॉर्मेट था
Correct.
एक दिन का फॉर्मेट
हाँ.
250 300 350 लोग आएंगे पैनल डिस्कशन होगा फायर चैट होगा so that was one perspective.
Correct.
Then you came out with the smaller formats.
See,
So let's
the
now
idea-
deep dive into these
The
formats.
idea of everything that we do was how do we create 3x value. So our event management company name is 3x Events.
That's again your
Our own
it's
other
your
IP.
own another IP.
Correct.
So you have Mojo Capital, which is doing
We have-
investment banking.
We have investment banking at Mojo Capital, Global Startups Club, which is a community or
Which
an
community
ecosystem.
which is enabling.
It's a startup lifestyle, is what you can call it. Is why we play even cricket with the founders. We have breakfast with the founders.
Yeah, we wanted that's very
Correct.
interesting.
We wanted to anything that we do should create 3 times more value than everybody
That's how the
else.
3x event.
That's how 3x
So
event
there are
started.
3 verticals of yours or businesses
Correct.
which you have.
Yes.
All are interconnected.
All are interconnected in a way. And because we want to do that value creation, okay, it shows off in our event. Like all the growth we have had is a very sustainable organic growth. We went from one city in February 2023 to currently operating in 11 cities in India. to
11
operate-
cities.
11 cities in India, to operating in 4 cities internationally, which includes Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Vancouver, and Seattle. And at every place, we go with a full format presence. We don't do a 10 people meetup and call it, oh, we are present in a city. We come with about 6 event formats for the ecosystem because we believe in offline networking, which includes your startup networking by Global Startups Club, your startup and investors forum, funded startups conferences, the founders and cricket mix play,
Then you have a CXO,
the CXO forum,
CXO forum.
the startup CXO forum,
So you're building the entire ecosystem and
Yes.
you're stitching it together. If I
and
can
stitching
use
it together.
The
And then the
professionals, the enablers.
flagship remains in that is the Global Startup Summit, which is a 400-500 packs event bringing the largest founders in
Got
the
it.
country together.
And that, I think that's
Biggest
we're having
VCs.
every 2 months.
Almost every 2 months.
So I was there part of your Bangalore event where I moderated my first panel discussion. Then I was with you. That's how we got
Correct.
we created this IP Asia PropTech
Asia
Forum, which we
PropTech
started
Forum
off
came
with
from there.
Delhi, 13th of July, and then 28th of this month we'll be
Is-
in
is
Hyderabad.
Hyderabad.
And then we're going to be in Chennai, back to Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, Goa. So this is
Correct.
what I know understanding. How do you differentiate yourself? And with all in
Correct.
all
Correct.
honest perspective, you know that we both as entrepreneurs we have limited resources,
Yes.
whether it's financial resource or human resource.
Correct.
do you think it's, so when you're planning these events, right, what is that is more important, to be better or to be the best?
See, look, we believe in you have to create value for everybody attending, everybody sponsoring, everybody associated at the event. Because if you're not creating, if you're not doing anything with the idea of value creation for them, it will not work. The simplest way to, how do you plan the value creation? Anything I would not attend myself, I would not expect somebody else to come and attend at my event.
So you put a
Because
lot
for
of stress
me-
on that. You do
Because for me, it's not just the money I go for an ecosystem building event for, it's the time I put in. So if I'm going to put in 5-6 hours of my Saturday, couple of hours on traveling, 3 hours for an event, I am looking for a very compact, high value proposition why I should get out and not work on my own business today.
But
or
does it
not
bother
work
you
on
at
my own
times
rest.
with, again, like I said, whatever resources we have,
Yes.
and there could be another IP which has a larger budget. So I'm
Sure,
not,
yes.
So how do you look at it from an IP owner perspective?
Throwing money.
Ki I have this summit which is say 2 crores, 3 crores, and
Yes.
I have my summit which is X, say whatever,
Correct.
20 lakh, 25 lakh. How do you feel as an IP? How do you just, like, I'm
as
sure
an-
you're, you know where I'm
Correct.
coming from, you know?
As an individual, I am never bothered about it. Okay, because that's my personality. Firstly, I don't think so. Throwing money at every problem is the solution. Otherwise, every funded startup would be highly profitable and be able to grow better versus a lot of the bootstrapped ones which are doing well. A lot of bootstrap businesses even today are doing well.
So the differentiator is what? Value?
The difference is the value you can create within that budget. So if I cannot beat somebody on the production cost,
Is the value which you are
then the
working.
value I'll create, and value can be created in multiple different manners. It's the interaction, it's the networking you're facilitating between people. It's the quality of crowd and the filtering of crowd you bring in.
The speakers,
The speakers you build in.
panelists also
and
very equally important.
also how you get the panelists and the audience also to interact with each other. So very recently, and me and you have also discussed and debated on that topic, whether we should have a VIP lounge for speakers or not.
Yeah, so this is the with this IP creation, co-creation with you.
Correct.
I went into the producer's shoes or the IP owner's shoes, and I was attending these events. So I used to find there was a speaker lounge, there were these bodyguards, and there were these celebrity panelists. They were they were taken away. The interaction with the audience was less. So obviously, I've seen that happen in the few events I have attended. In our case,
the same founders or celebrity founders and the same events will not have this internationally. Okay, and if my audience or my startup founders are not able to interact with a more successful startup founder
So what is the
or
point?
investor, what is the point of
So
them coming to the event?
the speaker actually should be more available, or the
Correct.
panelist with the audience.
Correct.
But that's
because
they are the
if
founders
you're not
there.
coming with the idea also to interact with the younger
Then there's no point.
founders,
That's a PR stunt.
then it's a PR stunt. And it's not like we are not giving you the PR stunt.
We are obviously.
We are obviously giving.
But I think the idea would be that they should be engaging with the founders.
Because I'll give a small example. When we were discussing Jagriti Yatra, I very distinctly even today remember Mr. R. Gopal Krishnan's word, who was ex-director of Tata Group. Okay, because we happened to hear him and witness him within our own surroundings, and that created a huge impact for me
Correct.
in my journey of wanting to come back to India. And these small things is what makes the long-term journey of a founder.
So
these experiences.
I will want to add here, Mohit. I think when we talk about these are all networking events, right?
Correct.
I think more interaction is what is required, and this is what the Indian startup ecosystem requires. Again, we've had this in the earlier 2 podcasts, and we spoke about the Indian growth story. We talk about the entrepreneur. That you will kind of endorse that today's We have some amazing founders in the tier 2 cities, in the tier 3 cities, right? Which we call them, that's the real Bharat, that's the inner Bharat.
Correct.
They require platforms where they can meet investors, they can interact with the mentors because they need direction.
Correct.
Where do you think India, where do you think Bharat, where do you think is the opportunity, where do you think an entrepreneur like you with your experience, where do you think, and what is that we can do as a part of this entire ecosystem which will enable these startups to grow?
So I think firstly, this whole thing of expecting people from outside to come and help you in your city has to kind of go away, because we are not trying to help young students, we are trying to help entrepreneurs and startup founders, right? So if there is no initiative in your city, you take one.
You means who?
Mean that individual founder or that whole community of founders
So the founder of that city should take that initiative.
should take the initiative also. Like in our case, I'll give an example. There were founders and people from Coimbatore, Nasik, Pune,
Kochi, whatever.
Kochi, who reached out to us to say, how can Global Startups Club come to our city? How can we host you? How can we build a local ecosystem with
Very interesting.
your presence?
So you are
here?
saying the founder of that particular city, they should rise.
They should
They
rise to
should
the
get
occasion
together.
also, because I mean India is very large.
Very large.
Okay, it's impossible for anybody or centrally anybody to reach every city.
And
sometimes
logistically also it's quite challenging.
Logistically it's challenging. Logistically it's expensive to
Very
add on
expensive.
it. So how do you build these, native clubs or native communities in every city? And I think a lot of communities
Are we doing
doing
that? Are you doing that at Global Startup Club? I
At
love this
Global-
idea, this
yes.
native club concept.
Yes.
Are we doing it? I mean, are you
At
doing
Global Startups Club, look, we have to be viable to be operating in each city.
it? Yeah. So how do we do this? So what are this? Is there a scope for these native clubs?
I think there is, but it has to be very largely driven from the local communities also there. Matlab, what I notice is people from a tier 3 city or a tier 2 city are happy to come and attend quality networking events in Mumbai or Bangalore and spending money on it
To come to the main city.
to come to the
The
main
metro
city.
city.
And when you discuss with them, hey, we're gonna do
In your
a similar
city.
event in your city, they don't want to attend.
Did about it.
So internally, if this is where you want to live and this is where you want to build your business, you also have to support local initiatives
Correct.
and build on it further. Matlab,
Correct.
nobody else can come there and do it for you.
You're an author.
Yes,
And you've given me this book, The Indian CEO.
correct.
Right?
Correct.
So this is reimagining the world stage. Tell us
Yes.
something about this book.
So this was probably my 5th attempt to write a book. The first attempt when I was a 10-year-old. So by the time 2018, 19, 2020 happened, I learned how to build products, learned how to build things. So then I knew how to structure myself to be an author now. And I had some story to tell also by then. So the Indian CEO is about the Indian origin CEOs who were born, brought up, in India, in the Indian culture, went internationally and were very highly successful. The likes of your Satya Nadella,
Yes.
Indra Nooyi,
Yes.
Sundar Pichai,
Ajay Singh Banga.
Ajay Singh Banga, and all these men, all these women who inspired me and my personal journey as CEOs. It's a collection of their stories and biographies and why.
So how did
they were important.
I say this page on Sundar Pichai.
Correct.
So what did you do? You actually went to their biographies or stories and
So
you collected something from them?
It's their
journey?
interviews, their journey, what parts of that inspired me, along with what they built in their careers is what it's about.
So it was an impact which a Parag Agarwal or a Sundar Pichai
Correct.
had on the ecosystem and on your life.
Yes, correct.
This is what this
That is what
book
the
is all
Indian
about.
CEO is about. So it's for people to take inspiration from the generation who just recently built their careers, their companies that they worked for, and kind of imbibe them in their lives. The
So we know, okay,
professionalism.
and I just want to add here, big US giants, tech companies, banking are having all Indian CEOs.
Correct.
So that's the another big opportunity which we have, where that's where again I also believe that's where the India growth story is all about.
Correct.
So you have a Microsoft or you have a Google, their CEOs which are heading their companies, helming their affairs are of Indian origin.
Correct.
They could or they will be that connect between that country, between that company and India.
It's a soft power and a culture power.
It is happening
Correct.
and it will happen.
It has already happened. I think if you take the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, Indians were known for the entry level jobs and the managerial jobs in international
This is how we started off,
ecosystems.
right?
That's where we started off. It was when I first saw Ajay Pal Singh Banga being MasterCard global CEO and hear him talk, in the happy Indian accent, and
Or
then talk
Sundar-
about
or Sundar Pichai for that matter.
correct and
Absolutely, he's like amazing.
talk about the world stage from that point of view, and being as Indian unapologetically, and bringing that culture to their organizations. I think that's a soft power we already have.
We already have.
We already have. I think what started with the first 5 CEOs has gone into 50 and gone into 80 plus.
So I also lost count now.
Yes, and I think it is also in the coming decades gonna be a super strength at a global level. Whether now it will be Australia or South Africa or parts of Europe, parts of Africa, where nobody might shy from appointing top Indian professionals into the CEO and leadership category roles.
And now also the businesses are growing. So we have a lot of Indian businesses now in these countries. So India is actually, you could call it a Indian origin
Multinationally,
MNC.
correct.
When we were growing up,
think-
it was the Americans coming to India. Now it's India going to the US.
Correct.
Indian companies go to the US.
Correct, but that's how even we started our company, right? Where we didn't need our headquarters to be in Singapore or New York to build a global brand today. It
So you're
can
Mumbai based.
unapologetically be based out of India in Mumbai
In Mumbai, yeah.
and
we
grow
can be global.
internationally.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So very quick rapid round, quick take on industry trends. What are we happening in the ecosystem, startup ecosystem? What is your take on the industry trends?
I think there is a larger shift towards revenue making startups and startups which are profitable right from early stage onwards, or if not highly profitable, at least have some margins and positive EBITDA, so to speak.
Correct.
That trend has, I think, come for a long time now.
And investors
Okay.
also will look at these as
They will
aspects.
look at the unit economics much more than they ever did.
Favorite entrepreneur advice.
Favorite entrepreneur advice.
And you're going to have right from a young entrepreneur to a seasoned entrepreneur also watching this. So it has to be across.
I would say that when you fall face first, okay, that means you were walking ahead. So get up, dust off, keep walking.
Wow, great. And if you would, so if you're walking, you're going to fall.
Yes, if you're not walking forward, you will not fall.
Correct, got it. Biggest inspiration.
Biggest inspiration has to
And
be
it has to be whatever. It could be your father,
Yes.
it could be anybody, it could be a teacher, whatever. What has been your
Correct.
biggest inspiration?
I would say a few different men have been inspiring to me at different points of life. Obviously, always starts with my father and his journey, and that has inspired me to go out and build something, and is the base of the entire ambition that I have.
I truly agree with that.
Besides that, a lot of other people, like my sister, has been an inspirational person to me in my journey. She was always somebody who's brought balance to the family and to my kind of erratic thinking.
So you admit that you're an erratic thinker.
Absolutely erratic thinker. सुधार ही नहीं सकते. And
और कोशिश भी नहीं करने वाला ना.
कोशिश भी नहीं करनी चाहिए.
जैसे हो वैसे हो.
Let Mohit be Mohit.
मोहित दे मोहित. Okay, ठीक है.
And furthermore, certain professors like Ashwin Bhatia sir, Sheshadri sir, They have been a good rock solid foundation at different points
Very nice.
in bringing us back to the grounded level.
Correct.
Yeah.
One book recommendation?
I would say Atomic Habits. At different points of life, different books have affected me and made me change. The recent one in the last few years,
These books impact you?
they do.
It
I'm
others-
very aware of what books I consume, because if I just consume anything and it affects me at the wrong time, I don't want my mindset changing. So Atomic Habits, the way it reminds you that small habits, improving them compound over a period for improvement.
Got it.
It's very important.
So though you said that Mohit is not going to change, still there's a question here for you.
Correct.
What would be, or what you think we can expect of Mohit after 5 years?
Mohit, after 5 years,
Something like that. So though we said that that you don't want to change, but we want to improve, right?
We want
so
to
where
be,
do you think Mohit would be after 5 years?
After 5 years, we would say ki there should be 100,000 plus startups in India and internationally, 500,000 plus deals and transactions, collaborations, and whatnot should have happened via Global Startups Club as an ecosystem.
Great.
This is the push that we don't expect success in a day. We are very patient enough to build a company with a vision for 2028, with a vision for 2035.
So you got a long-term vision?
Absolute long term.
You believe in being patient?
We are very patient.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why we
Yes.
have something called as patient capital. You are
Correct.
an investment banker yourself. So that's what there's a word
Correct.
where there are some investors who are not having the patience, and we have a terminology called patient capital. So you
Correct.
believe in patient capital also.
Absolutely.
Remain invested in the startup with the founder for a
Correct.
longer period of time. Your closing remarks. Overall, we are very clear that there is no two things about it, that the India growth story is there, it's for real.
Yes.
We are going to be the third largest economy. In the next few years, we are going to be a $5 trillion trend, or $10 trillion. You just now said about where the Global Startup Club is going to be. Anything which you would want to add, you want to say, which could be a message for all of us collectively as entrepreneurs, as educationists, as government, what is that now needs to be done so
I
that we
think-
are going, guaranteeing the India growth story.
I think implement.
Implement.
I'm a big fan of execution instead of just talking about ideas. Ideas are worth nothing to me. Ideas, as they say, dimes a dozen. Okay. And talk is cheap. You have to go out there and do it. There's a very beautiful quote which talked about the man in the arena. The man in the arena who's playing the sport, who's fighting the war, who's swinging the sword against the other gladiators. He is that who matters more.
Very correct.
Even if he wins, even if he loses, because he knows the greatest of victories when he wins, but he knows how to learn from even his losses, versus the spectator in the crowd who just knows how to talk and say it was so much easier to do.
Play the
Be in
game,
the
right?
arena.
And
Play the game.
Khelo game.
Be the man in the arena.
Be in the man in the arena. Very
Okay,
great.
then everything else is a noise.
Fantastic. As always, wonderful conversation. Thank you very much, Mohit, for coming here. We build, as I said, we have a friend, we have a partner, we're building the Asia PropTech Forum. Both of us have only that one intent to take PropTech to as many cities first in India. And as we plan to go to Dubai, we plan to go to Hong Kong, we want to take it global. We believe that the Indian real estate industries of the growth, and what is going to accelerate that growth is going to be technology.
Correct.
And you're one. I remember when the first time you introduced me for the Bangalore event, right?
Correct.
So why don't we end this session by
With
using
that,
that roti kapda makan.
Yes. So what I absolutely believe, the three things which have always reminded what humans want is roti, kapda, and makan. The roti and the kapda industry, unfortunately, because there are 50,000, 1 lakh, and 10 lakh players in those markets, the margins are much lower. Whereas if you take comparatively, what is the biggest transaction you ever incur in your life? It's still property. Whether it's your commercial property, residential property, the highest amount of money an average Indian spends today is still on property.
Is on property.
So, I mean, then PropTech or innovation within the property industry is a natural way to go.
Correct.
We cannot keep innovation and technology innovations and digital innovation out of the property market.
It has to be there.
It has to be there. So that is where the idea of Asia PropTech Forum between
Absolutely
us
with
came
you.
up.
Yes.
And we want to be the flag bearers and leaders.
That's the agenda.
That
That's the plan.
when the industry shifts hardcore towards new methods of creation and new methods of discoverability, that we were small enablers in that whole
Yes.
ocean of property.
Absolutely. And there's one more thing I'll tell you,
Yeah.
which I have planned or our team has planned. This particular podcast, we will be premiering it, or not premiering it, but we'll do a trailer at
Correct.
the 20th event, which is going to be
In
in
Hyderabad. Yes.
So that let's put this on the big screen.
Marketing is
थोड़ा करेगा. So you and I are going to be there.
Correct.
That's going to be on the 28th, guys. Thank you once again for being on our show, listening. Keep watching, keep subscribing, keep sharing, keep following us. Thank you very much. Thanks for Mohit. Fantastic.